Hi guys and gals, how you all doing? Having a bit of a look at Warframe today. Now Warframe's a interesting little thing that's come out from Digital Extremes lately, who've been a little bit quiet after Dark Sector and multiplayer for a whole bunch of various first-person shooters and so on and so forth. Warframe is a free-to-play third-person shooter. Interestingly enough, is very reminiscent of a lot of the early art for the 2005 E3 trailer here for Dark Sector, which seemed very much Space Ninja, Splinter Cell. Never actually saw the light of day until Dark Sector re-emerged to be an entirely different grimdark kind of thing. But anyway, this is what we've got, and this is what we just have to deal with. So Warframe seems to have taken a lot of those art assets and a lot of that artwork and sort of put it out as a free-to-play game as one can do nowadays. We're currently in closed beta, but keys aren't really all that tricky to get a hold of, let's be honest. And I've been playing for about, probably 24, 30 hours at this stage, and it's interesting. And it's got a really solid foundation. I thought I'd give people a bit of a look at it. So we're free to play, microtransaction driven, as all things are nowadays. Starting off here, we've got our Excalibur, a choice of one of three choices you get from the get-go. They're all reasonably decent, and you really can go with whatever you think looks the coolest. As is, the taste nowadays, a lot of shooting, a lot of RPG, blending hybrid action going on here. So we've got our level 30 Excalibur frame, which sort of levels up with a node unlock system here with mods, where we can have a look at there. Blom, 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 as well as weapons as well, which increase, the things that you like, weapon accuracy, well, not even accuracy, but damage and things like that. What we have a look at here, being free to play, yes, you can grind out a lot of the purchases as we've done here. I've not put a cent into this so far, and there's not really too much limits as to what you can actually get away with without spending a dime. A lot of the pickups in missions lead into resource collection, which leads into our crafting system here, and here you can see I'm already building my second character class, Mag, a bit of a female space ninja Magneto, if you will, and that's taken largely 3 days, and I still have 19 hours left. So, of course, if you want to pay some sweet, sweet space bucks, you can go ahead and do that. But all of this so far has been unlocked entirely by playing the game. A little bit grindy, but hey, what can you do, right? So here we are here. So one starts out here in the lovely system of Mercury, and all of this spreads out through the rest of the Sol system as you go through it. Now, all of these missions increase steadily in difficulty, and of course you can play this single player. You can also play this with wonderful players online. Being an Oceanic player myself, the lag situation isn't perfectly ideal, but that's what you get. A lot of the missions and planetary unlocks are largely meaningless other than the mission type that you'll be doing, which is to say your objective, or the opposition you'll be up against, one of the three factions. Your atypical zombies, your space marine types, and the more interesting Corpus, which seem to have a lot of probably the stealth mechanics that were left over from the early prototypes of Dark Sector. But what's really interesting is that a lot of the missions here are randomly generated. But you wouldn't really know it at this stage because the tile set's fairly limited at this early stage. What's really interesting, I think, about Warframe is this alert system. Every once in a while here we can see, it's probably a little hard to see here on the footage here, but we have 6 minutes and 39 seconds left to accept this alert. And these are other random missions with random rewards that pop up during the game. Those are the sorts of missions where you're getting the really juicy stuff, whether it is new weapon blueprints that you can come in and craft later on and things of that nature. That, you can then go off and grind a little bit more resource from doing the randomly generated missions. So we've got a system here where we've got character unlocks, we've got weapon unlocks, a crafting system, and pretty solid action. So let's jump in and have a look at the action. So I'm still slowly working my way through we've all done with Neptune, here through most of the Sol system. Let's go with Uranus. Giggle kids. I've lost Uranus. Here we go. Uranus, however you want to go. This one's an infestation mission, so let's jump in here. There's no other players, so it's played straight up. You can play by yourself if you like. You can declare straight up, I want to play this solo if you want. Glorious loading screen. Look at that, ladies and gentlemen. Isn't that amazing? And here we are, jumping into it. It looks nice. It looks super nice. Unreal Engine 3, I suspect. Really bringing it back to the age of the super shiny, super shiny glaze-covered walls of early Unreal on next gen. It's interesting is that really this was probably the first next gen game that was actually announced, and it's probably one of the last this gen games to come out before the big switch tends to happen. So all of these generally denote the change in tile. And we got zombies! In addition to our primary weapon and our sidearm, we've also got this little bit of a melee system here. Tap for quick attacks and charge for a hold. Those guys are jerks, the big poison dude. All of the characters are really generally changed around by the... Oh, I don't have that. I need more energy to do that. I don't really like these toxic guys because they eat through your shields. Well, they bypass your shields entirely through toxic damage. Now you can see glorious loot pinatas happening here. A lot of this is crafting items, ammo, and energy, which is to say space mana, that you're using to use character abilities. You know, typical stuff. It's all good. Now, being colorblind, this is generally pretty tricky to see here, but we've got a whole bunch of space lockers here. Let me just get rid of the neighbors. And the green one, I hope that's a green one. Green and red. It's really hard for me to tell. Sigh, alas. Everyone needs to put colorblind modes into games, but this is what you get. So being third person, typical, you know, left trigger, right trigger pull. Not really crazy about gamepad support at this stage. It doesn't feel quite right. It doesn't have a lot of that soft targeting that, honestly, as a mouse and keyboard player, going back to playing with a pad, that I kind of need to actually feel half decent. Being third person and being a bit of a space ninja here, there's a lot of acrobatic sort of almost nonsense because it doesn't really have any real impact, but it certainly looks fairly cool. Whether it's runs and slides and shoots and flipping out and shoot dodges and things like that. It just looks nice. Now, I've seen this probably 1,000 times in various variations, but again, random every time. I think once this game has got some, just a lot more variety in the tile sets, we'll be looking at something that's pretty interesting. You can see here as well that this map is also starting to look to mix up the factions. We saw a Space Marine there for a moment who appeared and then vanished. I've been spotted by security and been locked out, and thus I'm introducing ourselves a little bit of the hacking minigame here, so let's go ahead and do that. It's not bad for the old lock-picking thingy-dingy. I love how they just keep coming up with ideas for what is essentially the same thing, like Pipe Dream and Bioshock and Fallout's little node system. It's amazing we haven't settled on a standard version of that yet, but you gotta be new and different, right? Melee's pretty fun, if only for slicing people up. Taking a bit of damage here, so I'm gonna just flip out and kill some dudes. Let's mix it up a little bit here. So it's probably hard to tell on the video here, but we've got a mini-map up there in the top left, which is more or less just pointing me to my objective. I'm slowly just working my way towards. Now that there that you just saw drop and be immediately picked up was a mod, and that's really leads to one of the funnier things about this game. You probably first initial couple of hours, you'll have a look at the money you're making from missions and go, the grind in this is absolutely absurd. You really don't make any monies from missions. The economy's a little bit funny at this stage. So we've just completed our initial objective to get back to this point in a moment, and it's updated me with an additional objective to hack some data terminals, so we're off to do that. Flying by the seat of my pants here. So where were we? The mod system. Now with the mod system, basically that's just what you're putting into your Warframe and your weapons to, you know, basic modifiers, like a gem jocket system, if you will. But what is how the system is set up currently is that's really how, where you're making your money. They'll sell for upwards of a little bit, depending on how you go. And especially as you start to level up a little bit and you're getting access to higher level mods, they start to become worth a fair bit of money. And that's generally what you'll be using to buy the blueprints for various things, or to buy new weapons outright. So, if you're giving Warframe a shot, certainly don't be discouraged initially. So, let's have a look at our data terminals left and right. Enemy AI is certainly does enough to give it the impression that it certainly cares what it's doing. It'll seek cover and hide behind cover instead of a lot of very typical that we ran past before entirely. Again, hacking minigame. That one's a funny one because even though it'll look right, it's not quite right enough, even though there's probably 3 different ways that that actually could have been in the right position. But hey, what can you do? I suppose there's something sort of just primal about the way the shooter RPG just kind of works, whether it's Mass Effect 3 multiplayer, or even Hellgate London, or more recently Borderlands, where, I don't know, it's certainly a bit of digital crack, I must admit. Just the basic, the essential, I'm shooting a thing, and shooting a thing in a game is always good, but it's becoming sort of increasingly dull nowadays without a little bit of flair. And certainly just throwing in just a bit of grindy level progression certainly helps a lot. So I'm really interested to see where this game goes over time. Currently in closed beta, but they're taking money, so if an online game is happy to take your money, I'm pretty much happy to call that a soft launch. I'm happy to sort of say what I think at this stage. It'll be interesting to see, just really. I mean, these games will live or die by content delivery. Weapons pack some oomph. I suppose one of the almost negative degrees of feedback you can get about this game is you buy an expensive new fantastic weapon and you're all ready for it to just be a destroyer of worlds. But what generally ends up happening is that, you know, it's rank 1 and it's awful. So you've really got to put a bit of work into your fancy new super weapon before it's actually half decent. Which doesn't feel terrific. It almost feels like, why don't I just stick with the weapon that I already know works really well. Hopefully we're coming up on extraction here. No, we're coming up on a lift. I tell you what, this game certainly takes us back to the days of everything being blown and blurred to F, right? I like to look at this glow. They've actually patched this recently to reduce the amount of actual bloom going on. A lot of the things that are restricted to microtransactions are, you know, the typical niceties. For instance, a deeper colour palette, which you just buy access to entirely, unlike MechWarrior Online, where you just buy the colours and have to buy them every time, which is a little bit silly. I do like how absolutely gruesome a lot of this melee combat is. It's strange that, for being essentially space ninjas, there's not a lot of real stealth action going on. One of the factions that we're not seeing here... Oh, shield's getting a bit low. Typical sort of Halo system here, where we're looking at not much by the way of health regen without pickups and items being spent, and lots of shield gen going on. Oh, lots of dudes. That happens a lot, actually. Oh, lots of dudes. Let's just charge through here. I'm a little bit higher level for this section here because I have various regen mods. No, still nowhere near. We're just going to charge on through because I'm not really sure how we're doing for time. You don't say. Really? Here we go. Now, I've played enough of this game to know straight up that this is the extraction tile, so we're home and scot-free. It's very two different paces of the way this game works. When you're playing solo, it feels very much like jump from cover to cover, depending on the difficulty. But when you're playing online with 4 players, it's basically just rah! It's everyone sort of spazzes out and runs around like spastics, which can be pretty funny. So there you go, chaps. That was a bit of a taste of a Warframe. It seems alright. I think I'll stick with it. it seems interesting, but like anything, it's really going to be a matter of content delivery, and might be one of those things that you might play for a whole bunch for a little bit and then sort of come back to, and when there's some extra stuff there, just to see how that stuff has turned out. As I said, I'm currently working on building my second character class, but you know what? I've almost played this enough with the character class that I have that, you know what? I'm almost not too keen to be leveling up the next one to rank 30. I might just let that sit until there's a bit of a patch going on. So yeah, that was Warframe, and guys, thank you very much for watching. It's been a pleasure, and we'll see you next time with something new and fresh. Take care.